Hey, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be sharing my thoughts on my opinion on the recent report done by LeadDev. We will be checking all the data and we will go through how should engineering teams set goals and measure performance. If you don't know me yet, my name is Gregor and I am the founder of Engineering Leadership Newsletter. Now, let's get straight into today's topic. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're going to go through the report done by LeadDev. I'm also including the link to the full report in the description. So let's get first a bit about through demographics so we know better what kind of people have actually answered the survey. So the survey is based on 500 respondents, and also it was done between 31st July and 21st August 2025. As we can see here, mostly people in United States, then UK, Europe, excluding UK and Germany, and of course Germany, UK, USA, and then also a lot of other countries as well. Role mostly senior engineering leaders. Of course, also I would say like mostly engineering leaders in general, managers of managers, manager of engineers. Of course, also senior individual contributors, also senior software engineers, and of course then CTOs, tech leads, and so on. And also number of employees. We can see various of different sizes of companies, so that is great. So we can get a good overview of what's happening both in big companies, mid-sized companies, and also smaller size companies. So we can see a lot of diversity in the data. We can get pretty good insights on what's happening across the industry based on this report. Okay, so let's go straight to our first section, which is goal setting. That is kind of like the first section of the report, and we're going to be in particularly more talking about communicating business goals. So that is our first data that we're going to be checking. And the question was, in your company, how are business objectives communicated to the engineering organization? And we can see a lot of it is through senior engineering leadership, product managers, via wider business leadership, then also some other stuff like service level objectives. And also some people mentioned that the business objectives are not communicated to the engineering organization at all. So this data is quite aligned on what I'm seeing as well. What I would mention here is, especially with this numbers being on the top, I recommend to all the companies, every organizations that I work with, I do consulting, advising. I recommend that more is always better in terms of communicating business goals and also business challenges in general. So the best outcome that I would love to see here is that this percentage would be as high as possible. That is my recommendation, because engineering leaders, everyone inside a company can work so much better if they understand the business goals and the business challenges. If they don't, they will be more or less guessing what's important and what's not. And as engineers, we're making a lot of like small decisions on a daily basis when we are creating a certain service, when we're creating an API, when we are deciding on a certain technical direction, when we are deciding on the infrastructure, and so on. And knowing and understanding the business challenges and business goals really thoroughly and really well, we're gonna make a lot better decisions along the way. So it's good overview to see this, but my recommendation is always to have this as high as possible. Obviously, also I'm seeing across the industry in some cases that some companies don't even communicate business objectives to engineers and engineering leaders, and that is a problem. My recommendation, everyone watching this, communicate as much as possible. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is measuring progress based on business goals. So, the question was, which of the following metrics are used in your engineering organization to measure engineering team performance? So we can see meeting SLOs is on top. The second one is user satisfaction, then code quality, user growth, number of customer complaints, ROI, user conversion, and so on. So yeah, meeting SLOs is a really, really good metric, and the reason for that is because it's objective. You know, when you have like a metric like, okay, that service needs to be 99.99% of uptime, you know, it can be like, how to say, you know clearly if it's yes or no, right? You can't fake it. And it's a really objective way to measure, like, hey, is this, you know, engineering team or this engineering organization doing great work in general? But it's, you know, it's great more for kind of like platform teams that work especially with infrastructure, especially on uptime on certain services and so on. And that is the expectation, right? But then the problem comes where, you have a lot of product teams also inside your engineering organization. And then, you know, those teams don't have clear SLOs, right? They are more measured by the satisfaction of customers, of the users, the growth of the users, user experience, you know, what people are saying about that particular features, the user adoption of those particular features and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where you need to measure user satisfaction. 36% up there is great. You can measure that via NPS score or similar. Of course, code quality is always important thing to measure. It's a bit more code quality can be like very interesting thing to measure, because a lot of it is also based on the standards you have inside a company, guidelines, style guides as well. In general, it can be also a bit of subjective if you don't use like a clear differentiator of what is good quality versus not, because the thing is that simple code is really hard to define, and you just know it when you see it. That is the magic behind writing simple code, right? And yeah, also of course user growth, growth of the paid users, the ratio between paid versus free users is also a good indicator of how successful is a particular team doing, and so on. Obviously it's connected with the whole organization, the whole business, and so on. But of course, if you are a product team, then of course you have goals to ensure that the users are going to be their challenges are going to be solved, and their satisfaction is going to be as good as possible. And then the next question is, which of those metrics is most effective at determining engineering team performance? Yeah, we mentioned a little bit about this before. So this is, the first one is what companies are using. And then the second one is, what do you think about what are the most effective? And yeah, as we mentioned, meeting SLOs is exactly that, because it's very objective, right? And then, of course, user satisfaction is something, as we mentioned, that we should all in the overall organization, no matter if it's engineering, product, business, marketing, growth, sales, we should all strive towards creating good satisfaction from our users, and so on. I would be interesting also to see how people are measuring ROI, because it's really hard to do that, because what ROI means, what return are we getting from the investment? And investment is our time and resources, and of course also spending. We are spending on tools. We are spending on various different products to help us provide certain things to our users, and so on. And I'd be interesting to see how people actually measure this ROI. That is a complex topic to discuss, but yeah. That would be more kind of a great insights for me to get to see as well. Okay, let's get next to team coordination. How often do you coordinate with other teams? And a lot of people mentioned every day, and then a little bit more people mentioned weekly, and then a lot less people once a month, and a lot less than once a month, and some people never. So very important thing to mention here is that I'm a big fan of having autonomous teams inside the engineering organization, and that means that teams can be independent as much as possible. And the thing is that as soon as you have a lot of dependencies across different teams, like for example, one team is building a certain feature and they cannot move forward without that team, the other team, and then the third team also finishing those three particular things. And the problem with that is that every team has priorities and every team has certain goals and certain initiatives. And they can't always put their priorities, to be on top as like your priorities. And that has shown to be one of the biggest blockers to actually move things forward for engineering teams. So this is quite interesting data here, and it's a bit alarming because every day communicating with other teams is a bit too much, in my opinion. That means that a lot of teams are doing too much communication with other teams and too much alignment. There's a lot less independence between teams. Also I had a recent discussion with one of my coaching clients, and even if there's some duplication of certain code or certain things, certain tools, certain services, I'm fine with that as long as the team can move forward independently. I mean, obviously you're not going to be doing excessive duplication of really, really important services, but those small things that can unblock you really quickly. I'm more prone towards trying to small duplication is fine. Small, if you're trying to always stick to don't repeat yourself, you're gonna end up with so much cross-team dependency, and that is a big problem in my opinion. So weekly communication is fine. More than once a month is also okay. I think those two categories is okay for me. But of course, every company is different. Every case is different, and you need to see what's the best in your particular scenario, right? So what is the best for your teams. Okay, let's go to the next section, which is going to be performance metrics and measurement. So the first one, we're going to talk about why is it important to measure teams' performance. So why do actually teams work to measure the performance, of individuals and also the overall teams in general? And people responded with, to improve engineering quality, to identify process bottlenecks, to create accountability, to improve engineering velocity, manage upwards, to inform progression, promotion, firing decisions, other. Yeah, I agree with this data here. And you need in various different cases. And my recommendation is, as soon as the company grows, the engineering organization grows at least to 4 or 5 teams, then you need a lot more metrics to measure. I recommend to start with 1 or 2 things to measure. That can be like lead time to changes or code review size or something else, and so on. But at least you need some metrics, because it's really hard for you to stay on top of every team if you don't have some objective metrics, right? And then also it will help you to manage upwards, because you have some additional data about your teams. Of course, also when you have more teams, you need to ensure that you get the historical data where we were, and then also what we can do to improve things forward. Accountability as well. What the really important thing is that what you tolerate becomes a new standard, and especially with high performant engineers in general, people in general, right? If you tolerate low performance, then those people won't be happy, working in such team and so on. So yeah, all of these are very important reasons why I want to measure team's performance. And as I mentioned, the more the company grows, my recommendation is also to work on the metrics as well. But yeah, start simple, 1 or 2, and then you can decide on additional as well. You can use many different things here, like DORAs. You can also use space and so on. I'll add an article in the description where you can check more details on especially how I approach to measuring engineering teams. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is which of the following metrics are used at your organization. And yeah, this is a very interesting data here, and I'm quite concerned here to seeing number of tickets closed being quite on top. I'm fine with number of incidents. That is a decent metrics, because you don't want to have if you have a lot of incidents, that is a bad sign. That is a good metric. But then the really interesting thing comes here, which is number of tickets closed. That is 37%, and on the second place, which is too much in my opinion. This is a metric where people can do is they can intentionally create really, really small tickets, and they will look good on the board, right? Because they're finishing a lot of tickets, but they actually don't deliver a lot of business value, because they're making really, really small tickets. And more doesn't mean better in this case. And same is in number of story points completed, pull requests, days work, lines of code. All of these metrics are metrics where people are incentivized to do something, but it doesn't actually mean that it's going to be better for the organization. It can actually incentivize people to try to game the system, which is really bad. And it's not their fault. It's the fault from people that actually measure this and put too much of the weight on those metrics. I'm fine if they are tracked, but the important thing here is how you're using those metrics. If you're bringing them up on the sprint retrospective, on the team's retrospective, and saying, we closed a lot less tickets than we did, previous sprint, the teams are not going to be happy with this. It's not the way to interpret this data. It can be a bit of a informative thing, but it should not be tracked for any performance reasons, and it should not be brought up in terms of hey, you're not doing well because you closed a lot less tickets, you open a lot less pull requests, you finish a lot less story points, and so on. It should be more or less for informative purposes. So the bad thing here is we don't see how are these metrics actually used. We are just seeing what are being tracked. So if they're used in the right way, it's fine. But even in a lot of companies, I saw that they are being misused, and I think there's still misuse of them in a lot of companies, in my opinion. What metrics do you or your team try to avoid? And that's exactly what we have talked about. Of course, lines of code is being on top, 65%, but I would love to see this metric to be 100%, because still 35% haven't answered that this should be avoided. But this is something that should be extremely avoided, because more code is actually a lot bad than less code. You want to solve the problem with as less code as possible. Of course, don't try to be clever. You want to write simple code. Simple is the way to go when you're building features, when you're building functionalities, when you're building things. So more code is always better. Is always bad. So this is a really, really bad metric. Hopefully in the next year we can get this to 100%. And also days worked. It's something that we should not be, especially like in Europe. You have a defined amount of time that you can take times off, and everyone can take those, and it should not be, especially engineering teams, that doesn't matter. Same is with story points completed, pull requests, a number of tickets closed. Those are all metrics where you're putting too much weight on them, and people will try to try to game the system, and it's not going to provide any value to your business. It's going to just create competitive environment inside engineering teams. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is what methods to use to track the metrics. So retrospectives, customer feedback, annual service, short frequent pulse service. Retrospectives is of course good thing to check. I always recommend for engineering teams to create to be transparent on this retrospectives and share this board with everyone. I think that is the best way to operate as engineering organization in general, to be transparent as much as possible and share what is going good, what is going bad, And I like to say that transparent engineering organizations are the best kind of engineering organizations, and they're a big asset for the business. What I'm missing here is dashboards. Things like tracking DORA's metrics, space metrics, and things like that. Though those are also good methods to track and measure teams' performance. Which methods have you found the most useful to measure developer experience? One-on-ones, continuous feedback processes, developer satisfaction surveys, measuring amount of time dedicated to different aspects of software development cycle. Yeah, one-on-ones is really amazing way to track, what do people, how do people feel in general. I put a lot of time into making sure that one-on-ones are really useful both for me and also for my report. I like to have them, very structured, but they are there for the, for the report. I also shared the link to the article where there's a complete guide on how to have great one-to-ones with your report. There's also a Notion template there that I use it now for close to 5 years. So one-on-ones are really important way to track how people feel, what can we do better, what things to improve, and so on. And of course also it's a good way to give feedback to your reports as well. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is popular tools for tracking team performance. Yeah, of course, Jira is one of the most used software tools in engineering organizations. And then also a homegrown dashboard analytics tool. This is a very good, interesting data because we can see, this is on the second place, and especially when tools for building things are getting better and better. I can see engineering teams building more and more internal tooling themselves. Any kind of dashboards for measuring and tracking different metrics, analytics tools and stuff like that. I see this to be growing more and more. So I think next year this is going to be a lot more percentage is going to increase. And yeah, also some other useful tools here as well. Okay, let's go now to our last section. Last but not least, let's talk about learning and development. Top reasons to invest in learning. Yeah, obviously. Great engineering organizations and great engineering cultures are the ones that continuously focus on growing your people and your teams in general, right? And that is also the top reason of your organization invests in learning and development to retain and maintain developer satisfaction. Yeah, exactly what we mentioned, boost team performance, especially in current times, where there are many unrealistic expectations in terms of AI being a magical tool. You need to give time and space to people to experiment and learn and expand their knowledge. Give some time to people to try out different different tools, try out different things and see what's working and what's not. I'm also a big fan of doing hackathons across the engineering organization focused on learning or actually using a new tool. That is a fun way to do something great and also have fun with it at the same time. Now let's focus on which areas is your team currently looking to upskill. Yeah, we mentioned AI. Anything related to AI is something that engineering teams and of course companies in general are looking to to upskill in general in people inside the companies. Prompt engineering and managing agents being on top, cloud native technologies. Yeah, this has been something popular for quite a while now. Of course, DevOps and infrastructure, and of course, leadership and strategy skills. This is going to be more and more important as time goes on. I think especially for engineers and engineering leaders, because leadership is skill is something that is going to be more and more important, especially when you're building AI features, AI products. As an engineer, as an engineering leader, you can't be just owning the how. You need to be also having a say on why, what, and when as well, because you understand the details. And the reason is that if someone is making a decision that doesn't understand the technical details behind the complexity and complexity behind building something, they're going to have a different perspective on when you should do this, or why you should do it, and also what you should actually do. It can be really the difference between building a certain AI feature in 3 days or in 300 days, and so on. And of course, also like testing, quality assurance is very important in building AI features, AI products. Of course, communication skills, human-related skills in general are going to be more and more important as time goes on. So those two things are not surprising to me. I'm a big advocate for engineers and engineering leaders to upskill on these skills in general. And yeah, let's go to the last, but of course not least, data that we can see from the report. What would improve learning and upskilling in your current organization? And yeah, we can see more time provided for learning and training. What I'm seeing a lot over different organizations, different companies, is that people have a lot of unrealistic expectations in terms, especially regarding AI. And then the problem comes where people, engineers in general, engineering leaders, don't have enough time to actually try to experiment and try to learn about the tools, learn about different options available when it comes to certain AI tools, certain AI spectrums, and so on. So it's a bit of a problem. Expectations are high, but then the time is getting less and less available, right, for such things. But it needs to be both. If you expect people to adopt and use certain new tools, you need to give them time to experiment and see what's actually beneficial. If you're gonna say like, okay, we need to use this tool, and then it's not actually going to be helpful, you're going to create a lot more issues. You want to make sure that you provide what are the business challenges, what are the business goals, and then provide a time for everyone to see what are the best tools to solve these particular challenges, and so on. Is employer incentivized to complete learning training? Yeah, of course, with any kind of security, that's always incentive for companies to do that. Increase frequency in training, tie training and certification directly to compensation increases, and so on. Okay, we come to the end of this report. It was really great for me to go through this whole report and go through the data. It's really a great way for me to see what's happening across the industry, and I hope also it was helpful to you. To learn more, you can subscribe also to my newsletter. It's called Engineering Leadership, where I share 2 articles on a weekly basis. There are more than 165,000 people already reading it. And thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.